ended the first quarter of 2023. So we're about 4 percentage points below where our pre-pandemic baseline is.
So hopefully in about a year, we're going to be back to where we need to be. I think the bigger problem, as I talk to providers across the country, is workforce. And that's really something that's happened in skilled buildings that's never happened in our history. It's always been tough to staff. You know, my wife and I, our last work was that we built and owned and operated buildings in Kansas. And it's always been a tight labor market. But we have never seen a material loss in workers like we experienced after the pandemic. People just deciding that they don't want to work in our buildings anymore. So when we started out the pandemic, we had almost 1.6 million workers in nursing homes. We dropped almost 250,000 at the bottom, which was in April of last year. We've had a slow recovery since April of last year. Maybe you felt that in your centers. You're getting a few more people applying. Folks are actually starting to show up for interviews here and there. But we still have a ways to go. We're still almost a couple 100,000 workers short, which is part of the reason why it's just insane that somebody would think about a minimum staffing requirement when we're not even close to where we were when the pandemic started. We have statewide maps that show that the amount of worker loss in every state, and unfortunately Florida is among the worst states in terms of overall job loss. LaShawn, we don't really have, again, data like this for AL, but what's your experience?
Sure. So I will tell you, up until a couple of months ago, we really heard a lot of providers talking about their biggest challenge is workforce. So while we have some providers that have fully recovered, have waiting lists, those providers that are not fully recovered, the primary reason that we're hearing from them that they're not recovered is because of workforce. But like Mark stated, my most recent conversations with our board, we have a 24-member board, as well as providers as I go from state to state, is that they are starting to see applications come in. They are starting to see more people coming in, looking for it, and showing up for those full-time jobs. And so we are starting to see some recovery. With that said, we know that in some of the areas across the country, particularly in rural areas, they are still struggling with workforce.
So Emma, that's kind of the overview. I don't know if you want to get into some policy questions.
No, that's a good overview, and it's really interesting to see. You mentioned the favorable demographics. Would you just comment on that for a moment?
Yeah. So Stacy and I opened up our first facility in 1994. And people would come to us and say, "Oh, Mark and Stacy, you're so smart because all these people are getting older and you're going to be able to take care of it." Well, a lot of people were turning 60, 65, 70 back in the 90s and early 2000s. But that's not who we take care of in our buildings. The average age in our buildings is about 83. We take care of people that are much older than the population and the policymakers realize. The number of people between 80 and 85 actually hasn't gone up in the United States until starting in 2017. Starting in 2017, those numbers went up. Really starting in 2020, they started going up pretty dramatically. And in 2025, they start going up a lot because the oldest baby boomers turn 80. So in 2025, there will be 6 million people between the ages of 80 and 85 in the United States. By 2030, there will be 8.5 million. We'll have 2.5 million of the folks that we take care of in our key age group in the country. So you combine that with the fact that everybody thinks this is a lousy business right now and nobody wants to build new buildings, so that the number of beds is not going to go up, the demand is going to go up. I think we're going to see a gradual, it's not going to be a spectacular overnight massive increase, but I think we're going to see a steady increase in census.
Good, thanks, I appreciate that. All right, so we were just up in D.C., it seems like a month ago, and charging the hill about this staffing mandate. What's the latest on that?
So, we have very fresh information on the staffing mandate, and that is it's further delayed. You might recall that the president announced on March 1 of 2022 that there would be a minimum staffing proposal within a year. So that would be March 1 of 2023. They missed that deadline. And so then they said, okay, we'll have it with the SNF payment rule, which was May 1. They missed that deadline. Then they said, we'll have it in the spring. The spring ends on June 21. They missed that deadline. So we've all been wondering, okay, when is this thing actually going to come out? There are meetings that the White House can set to have further discussions about the rule, and until those meetings end, they can't technically release the rule. So we thought that they would schedule all of those meetings last Friday that another one of those meetings has been set for September the 6th, which means there's no way this policy is going to come out before September the 6th, the 8th, or the 10th, and it may be delayed much later into the year. We've done something that I'm not sure we've ever done before, which is that we've had a massive lobbying campaign before the rule has come out. And that has caused them to really think a lot about it. We've had members of Congress calling them. We had 7,000 unique emails from members that went to the administration in February. And I think they're really now thinking, man, this might not work. The nursing home folks might be right. And so it's further delayed. Now, that doesn't mean that it's not going to happen. I think that we have to assume it's going to happen. The administration says that it will continue to happen. But I think what we've done with our campaign is I think that we've set the stage for the